All right, and we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and of course, this is my channel, We Love Comics. It is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 25th of March, 2018. How you all doing? Hopefully you've had a great weekend. And I wanted to do a video, and we can always do this interactive with my subscribers in the comments section, so feel free to leave your comments with this. And as you could see what was on the screen, AIW, and what is that? Well, one of my subscribers, they left a comment, and I thought this was a good idea, so I'd like to welcome everybody starting to come in. Daniel, welcome. There's a subscriber, his name is Avid Collector 80, and he did the following, and I'll read this comment. Since everyone seems to be talking about Avengers Infinity War, I was wondering if you would do a live video talking about things like what you think will come after. I was thinking, and he's saying this, Avengers Secret War, some speculate Secret Invasion. Obviously, it could determine which speculation books could potentially rise in value. What would be the next biggest threat after Thanos? So I think this is a good topic to talk about, because obviously, where do you go from what could be the most epic, especially Marvel movie of all time, and that is the Avengers Infinity War and the unnamed so far Avengers 4. Now, I think he makes a good point, and I agree with one of the two, and that is, I really think, and I'll show it in the comments section right here, this is what I think would probably the next way to go, Secret Invasion. And I'd explain why, because if you've been paying attention to movies that haven't come out yet, Captain Marvel is going to be featuring the Skrulls. And they're starting to show, even on the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., alien races. So they're starting to introduce alien species. I mean, that obviously started with the first Avengers movie, but they're getting it a little bit more where you're paying attention to it. Now, with Secret Invasion, we can do a lot of good things with that, because if you know anything about the comics of Secret Invasion, basically, to boil it down in a nutshell, the alien technology, they have the ability to shapeshift. So they were posing as a lot of heroes and villains. And this could bring back any character. So there's a lot of rumors of who could die in the Avengers movies that are coming up. Now, for example, they've already said that, I think it's Chris Hemsworth, I'm not sure, whichever Chris it is, forgive me, but the Chris that plays Captain America, and I'm sure my subscribers who are smarter than me will point out which Chris it is, they're saying that the Avengers 4 is going to be his last movie. Now, that may or may not be true, but keep in mind, even if that is his last movie, does not necessarily mean it's the last movie for Captain America. Now, we've seen, I mean, you could look at just the Batman franchise, that you can put in another actor and continue the role. But I think they would be doing that not right away, but you can use the Secret Wars to say that some of these characters, even Tony Stark, that they could have been aliens posing as the heroes, and they didn't really die. So they could have been kidnapped, or they could have, been somewhere else. They could go in so many different directions. So I really think the next logical step from the movies would be something like Secret Invasion. Now, the reason I wouldn't do Secret Wars, I mean, that's another really big epic movie, and I don't think it's a good idea to do technically three huge movies, and who knows, Secret Wars might be a two-parter as well. So let's assume Secret Wars would be a two-parter as well, which I think they would probably do. You're talking 4 movies in a row that would be very epic, and the reason I wouldn't do that is then people will start to think that's how all the movies should be. And as you could see with the Black Panther movie, you don't have to have 50 characters. You don't have to have every movie to be so epic, because then where do you go from there? So smaller movies can still work. So I think it wouldn't be a good idea to do Secret Wars right away. And one of the bad things about the whole Sony situation with their upcoming Venom movie it's going to be hard to do Secret Wars movie right now, because if you know anything about Secret Wars, well, that's where the symbiote, the black suit, comes into play, where Peter Parker goes to a machine that he thinks just creates new suits in the comic, and it ends up being what eventually becomes Venom. So do they not include that? It's something I would stay away from. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it just disconnected me. So, I don't know how much you heard me say, but I was saying because of the Sony situation with the Venom movie, I think unless Marvel changed the origins and everything of the movie, I think Secret Wars would be better left for later on in the future. So I think Secret Invasion would be a good way to go. But they have so many things that they could use. I mean, we have to also realize that if the Fox deal goes through, and most people are saying it's pretty much not a done deal, but pretty close to as what you can get. They just got to, dot the I's and cross the T's. There are so many different ways they can go after that. So I think after the Avengers movies, they're going to go back to some of the smaller movies. That's why they're saying, for example, the next Spider-Man movie is what's going to be, starting the next phase. And that's going to be a smaller type of movie. So I think you're probably going to see more of these type of movies for a little while, because we're going to have so many new characters that have to be introduced. You have to get to know them, because we got to remember, we as comic book fans, we know about Adam Warlock. We know about Quasar. We know about Galactus. We know about these characters because we love them, and we've probably, some of us, been reading them for decades. But when it comes to the movies, remember, there are plenty of people that go to the movies that have probably never picked up a comic book, who may not know these characters. I mean, you walk down the street and ask somebody, who's Adam Warlock, they'll look at you like you just asked them to explain the theory of the universe. So it's going to take time for them to introduce these new characters to the general audience, which is going to be frustrating for us comic book collectors, because, like, for example, when they rebooted the Amazing Spider-Man movies, did we really need to see, how Peter Parker gets bitten by a spider? I mean, we know that. But there are certain people in the movies that watch movies that are not going to see it. So, and Avid Collector says really quick, and I thoroughly agree with this, is Fantastic Four movie, the second one, did not do Galactus justice. Basically, they didn't do Galactus at all. I mean, they did the same thing with the Green Lantern movie, where they made the villain into a large puffy cloud. I mean, that just, to me, is lazy, and that's a way to save money on special effects. But, I mean, Galactus is too epic to turn into a cloud monster. So I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But if the deals go through with Marvel and Disney and Fox, I mean, there's an endless amount of ways that they can go, because they are saying that in Phase 4 there's going to be a lot more, off of Earth type of movies. So you're going to have people like Adam Warlock. They've been rumored that Quasar might get a movie, or at least introduced. I'm talking about, like, especially if the deals go through, I want to see Galactus, but I want to see him done right. And, with the purple outfit and everything, because that's what made him epic. I mean, he just stood out as a villain, a major villain. And if you think about it, Galactus really isn't a villain, because he's just feeding. It's like us eating. You have to eat to survive, and that's what Galactus did. But, of course, if you're the thing about to be eaten, you're going to see that item that's trying to eat you as the bad guy or the enemy. But I would love to see that. I mean, look at, for example, like I was saying with my speculation books, some video I made the other day. Just imagine if Marvel gets their hands on Doctor Doom, what they could do with that character. I mean, look at some of the X-Men villains. I mean, them being able to use Magneto and Juggernaut. There's just so many different ways to go. If you're a comic lover fan, if Marvel keeps doing these movies right, you're talking probably at least another decade or two of amazing potential movies. And that's why I also hope that the DC franchise gets itself in gear, because for every bad movie that they've made, and it's unfortunate because I want both companies to succeed, because if they both succeed, that means the comic book industry stays strong and we all get to continue viewing what we love. So I'm not a DC hater. I love Marvel. I'm 95% Marvel, but I love DC also. And I mean, I remember watching the original Batman in 1989. I was there before opening day. It was the preview the Thursday night at midnight, and we were all waiting online to see that at the movie theater. And I thought that was like such an epic movie. As a matter of fact, I remember like it was yesterday, a bunch of my friends were in line, and we finally get to see the showing of the movie, and everybody was so excited about this because we haven't seen, people today, they don't understand, like us older generations. Before the Batman movie in 1989, the last really good superhuman movie was Superman. And that was really, the good ones were in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, Superman 2 was awesome, but after that it was a joke. So we hadn't seen a good superhero movie in probably about a decade. And when the credits were rolling and it first starts with Batman, everybody's cheering, and every name that comes on the screen before the movie starts, they're introducing the names of all the actors, everybody's cheering, and then when they showed Prince as the music, I booed, and I got the whole audience to start booing it, and it was actually really funny. But when DC and Marvel win, we all win, so I don't wish anything bad on either company. But if they continue, especially Marvel, to produce really good movies, they don't have to be all epic, because then we're going to get the fatigue. Because then if it's just them trying to top, okay, what do we top with this next? Because remember, one of the biggest downfalls of any reboot is they forget the story and just replace things with special effects, thinking that the average person thinks that's going to make it better. And let me see, Avid Collector really quick said, who would have thought that Heath Ledger could top Jack Nicholson's Joker performance? I agree. I could say they're both epic because they both did them in a different way. Jack Nicholson basically stayed very true to the Joker. I mean, especially if you watch the 1960s TV show. So he based his character on the comical side of the Joker. Heath Ledger took it to the more dark place, the more psychotic Joker, where he was not as funny, but you could definitely see he was definitely a psychotic person and how he can be driven to madness. But both characters were amazing, especially for its time. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to top either one of those two, but because they were in such extremes, I mean, you could definitely say it's like 1A and 1B as far as those performances. But I think as far as the movies, after Infinity War, I think they're just going to stay a little bit lower in tone. Because if you do too many epic movies, see, to me, epic movies are nice, but they also have to be entertaining. They have to have a story. I don't want to just see a bunch of flashing lights and things that say, oh, I remember that as a child. See, this is one of the reasons why I no longer care about the Star Wars franchise. And you're talking about a person who saw the original Star Wars in the movie theater back in 1977. I've seen every Star Wars movie opening day since I was a kid. I could quote probably almost every part of of all the movies. The first three movies are, to me, gold. The trilogy, the episodes 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, I was very upset when those came out, but in 1999, or it was 2000, I think it was 99, when the episode 1 came out, I was there opening day, disappointed by the opening scene and hearing all those corny voices they were doing for the aliens and just too much of the, trade union and all the talking and everything. It just didn't seem like Star Wars except for the pod race. But to me, the newer Star Wars, it's visually stunning. I mean, there's no denying the special effects are amazing, but the stories did not bring us to something new. It did not create characters I really loved and really knew. And what they did with The Last Jedi, especially with Luke Skywalker, who was my all-time favorite character, made me never want to watch him again. Now, that's my own opinion. Of course, if you still love Star Wars for whatever reason, you are absolutely able to. But the point I'm trying to make is epic movies only work if there's a good story. Because if you look at, for example, like the Transformers franchise, I watched the first one. And I thought, it's cool. It's a toy I grew up in the 80s with. I used to love watching the cartoon. I was disappointed when Megatron didn't turn into a gun like he was supposed to, and how characters did not, represent the toys that they were back when we were kids. But I watched the first one, and it was okay. But then it just got to the point where it was just a garbled bunch of mess. And to me, if we settle for mediocrity, that's what we're going to get. So I am looking forward to the Avengers movies, these Infinity War movies. I loved the Infinity Gauntlet as a kid. I mean, I still have my original comic I bought the day it came out. That was a great storyline. Secret Wars, the Infinity War, the Infinity Gauntlet, amazing stuff. And I am so looking forward to this. But I don't want every movie to be now trying to top that, getting larger and bigger, because then if you have too many characters, it's going to destroy what you're watching. And there's not going to be enough time to introduce characters. And the reason why Infinity War is going to work is they've had 10 years of you getting to know most of these characters, that you actually care about them. And that's where, for example, with DC, with the Batman v Superman, when they finally got them together, you didn't really care as much. And when they did the Justice League, you didn't really care as much for the characters because you didn't have time to grow with them and learn about them. Like, they were cool moments in the movies, but they didn't really get you to care about a character. And that's one of the things, like, for example, again, with the Star Wars. With Star Wars, when the original 3 movies came out, Luke Skywalker started out as just a nobody. And he did not trust in himself. He didn't believe in himself. He was a whiny little brat. And he had to learn through 3 movies how to learn about the Force and make mistakes and do things where you're rushing in and there's a price to pay. And you started to care about the character. With the new character, Rey, she's almost instantly powerful. You don't really get to grow and learn from her. So yes, some people are going to love these because especially, when you're younger, you're going to love movies. I mean, I remember as a kid watching the Beatles movie when they were doing a tribute, the Bee Gees, when they were making a tribute to the Beatles. And I remember the Kiss movie. What was it? The Kiss and the Psycho Circus or something like that. As a kid, I absolutely loved that movie. But when I saw it as an adult, I wanted to shoot myself saying, why would I ever watch such garbage? So we're a little bit easily influenced when we are children. So the Infinity War movies, I think, are going to do really well. They are going to work because, yes, there's going to be a lot of characters, but you know most of them. You know Black Widow. You know about the conflict between Iron Man and Captain America. You know they have a lot to lose. There's a lot at stake. You've seen enough of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters to get to know them. So, yes, and thank you, Caleb. It's Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. If you haven't gotten to watch that, if you're a person that's over 21 and drinks and you want to have an interesting movie to watch while you've been drinking, yeah, that movie would definitely do it. And the other one was the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I think that was the movie. Another one, when you watch it as an adult, you're like, what was I thinking? So we don't want just movies where they top each other and it's more epic and you throw in a bunch of comic movies, comic book characters. We want good stories. Now, you also want them to look visually good because, to me, like a video game, I want something that's not only great to look at, but something that's, a good game to play, something that has replayability. And to me, a good movie is not just watching it once and saying, yeah, I liked it, but having a movie that's so epic that you could watch it 20, 30, 50 times and still love it every time. It's the rewatchability to me that goes from an okay movie to one of the epic movies of all time. I've watched the original Star Wars movies, the trilogies, more times than I could probably count. I've only seen the last 2 once. and I probably would never watch them again. The Batman v Superman movie, I've only seen once. I really haven't had a desire to watch it again. Guardians of the Galaxy, I've probably seen 30 times. Because that's such a great movie. So yes, you want visually stunning. You want epic characters. But you have to have a good story. To me, one of the best Marvel movies, in my opinion, is the Captain America movie, the second movie. When they were talking about Hydra. And it was almost like a spy type of movie. To me, that was such a great movie because it had a great story with comic book characters. So there are so many different directions they could go. You know how awesome it would be if we got to see the X-Men, including Deadpool, in a Marvel movie? So I think another movie, one they would absolutely have to make, if the deal goes through, is you have to do the X-Men versus the Avengers. That would be another epic movie to do. I think that would be the best way to introduce the X-Men the moment that Marvel and Disney take over, if they do take over the Fox characters. That would be such an amazing movie. And the way they can introduce it, I mean, they do alternate universes, time travel, all these things. There's so many different ways that they can introduce these characters and just say, they got transferred from another dimension or another alternate Earth, and now all of a sudden they're part of this universe. And to me, and that's one of the reasons why I made that video the other day about comics that you should get. Now, some of them, of course, are a little expensive, but they're going to be a lot more expensive if these movies ever take place. So I think at first, after the Avengers movies, these two movies coming up, they're going to go back to their roots and start over again in the sense of introducing new characters, but not rushing them. Not doing one movie, then all of a sudden doing another epic movie. I think they should introduce characters to the point where you get to know them again. You get to care about them again. You get to understand their motivations for whatever they're doing, and then back it up with another epic movie. So after that time passes, you're more established with the characters. So I think they're going to continue to go in that direction. But the biggest mistake they would make, in my opinion, is right after these two Infinity War movies are done, for them to go into another big epic movie like The Secret Wars or Secret Invasion. Although I think Secret Invasion would be one of the first ones they would use, because then they could bring back some characters that may potentially quote-unquote die. Because if we know anything about the comics, no character ever stays dead. I mean, when you bring back, characters like Gwen Stacy, nobody is safe. I mean, I think, didn't they at one point bring back Aunt May? I mean, since the 60s, she was like an 80-year-old fragile woman, and, this is what they do in the comic books. So I would love to hear your opinions of this. And this is one of the things I always say, even if you're not here for the live show, if you are watching this a day, week, month later, let me know what you want in the movies. Do you agree with some of the things I say? Do you disagree? Tell me why. What kind of movies do you expect to see? Because like I was saying with the Transformer movies, they make a lot of money. But just because they make a lot of money doesn't mean they're good movies. There's a lot of special effects, but not a lot of story. And I don't want movies where it's just you're sitting there just dumbfounded by, oh, look at the pretty lights. It's almost like flashing keys in front of a baby. I don't want to be entertained by somebody dangling something pretty in front of me. I want a good story. And Avid Collector says, Aunt May died in Amazing Spider-Man 400. Yeah, I actually have that comic. I remember the day it brought out. It was a die-cut cover with a gray tombstone on the cover. I bought that the day it came out. But yeah, they did bring her back. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I mean, next they'll have, Aunt Maypool or Aunt May Venom. What would it be? Aunt Menem or something like that. And that's another thing I think they're doing a little bit overboard with the comics. And one of the things I've learned, especially about Marvel, I love them to death, but they will also kill things to death. DC also does it. So that's why a lot of people get turned off a little bit from the comic books, is because, they find a good thing and then they just bury it in the ground by overdoing it. So to me, after the Avengers, they're going to slow down a little bit. I'm looking forward to the next Spider-Man movie. I'm waiting, and I think a lot of us are waiting for us to finally hear the day that Marvel and the Fox movies become one. And that's why I think you may possibly see in the Infinity movies, now don't quote me on this, I don't know, but I'm going by a gut feeling, that you may see a Fox character at some point in one of the Infinity Wars. Because even though they haven't had the turnover yet to where Disney owns them, that doesn't mean they can't make agreements. Because remember, when they did with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they gave the teenage war-headed whatever from from Deadpool, Megasonic teenage whatever, and we got Marvel got Ego the Planet. They've done deals before. So how epic would that be, even if it's a cameo or even if it's one of the end credits where you just see Silver Surfer flying in the background or something? Because if you know anything about the Infinity War, the Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer and Galactus, they played big parts in this whole thing. I remember one of my favorite comic book covers was Infinity Gauntlet. I think it was issue 3 or I think it's 4. I think it might be 4. Yeah, it's Megasonic Teenage Warhead. Try and say that 10 times fast. But when they have all the gods like Galactus and some of the, the epic characters standing over Thanos and made him look like this tiny little creature, and he basically just almost with a snap of his finger destroyed them all. I mean, that was such an epic storyline. Also, remember, I would love to see this character. Let me know what you think about this. One of the key characters in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline was Morpheus. Now, he hasn't been utilized yet, the underworld. They're starting to get into space, but what about, the underworld? Like, you have Hela, and they have Ghost Rider, but we haven't talked about it's Mephisto. That's his name, I'm sorry. But I would love to see, and that's another one. Avid Collector just said Beta Ray Bill. I would love to see Beta Ray Bill. I remember the first time I saw that cover, that Thor cover with Beta Ray Bill, before I even knew who it was. I remember when I was going to the comic book store and I was browsing through comics. As soon as I saw that cover, I bought that book, and I still have the original book. I would love to see Beta Ray Bill, but again, that's a character you'd have to start to introduce. And would you use him as a hero? And, I mean, that would be something after Thor was gone, or at least the current Thor as we see. Let me just see if there's any questions. And Avid Collector says it started with the death of Superman. Yeah, but please, don't remind me of that. I remember that as a kid, and everybody was buying 25 copies of that book. All right, let's see. Let's see if there's any questions. I want to say hello to people. Of course, Avid Collector, who was the inspiration for this video. Doomsday Comics, hello. Lucky Straight. He says, I'd rather watch your videos than do my schoolwork. I don't know if your parents would agree with that, but I appreciate it. Just make sure you do both. Afterwards, just make sure you do your schoolwork. Ray the Silencer Man, what's up? He says hello to everybody. Doomsday says, what did you all think about Weapon H? Well, let's put it this way. Since the Red Goblin, how many people are talking about Weapon H anymore? And that's what I talk about when somebody asks me about the Red Goblin. These are fads. I mean, it's a nice character. It's a popular character for right now, but it's not a lasting character, at least in my opinion. And you could tell because Weapon H was the biggest thing when it came out, and it lasted a couple of months. Then all of a sudden people were talking about the Red Goblin, and no one's really talking about Weapon H anymore. So I think it's like these characters to me, like I said, it's like a firework. It's beautiful when it launches. It's even more beautiful when it explodes, but it fades quickly. So, I mean, if you bought it when it first came out, you don't have to worry. But if you spend $80 to $100 on that book, that's probably going to be the peak. Because, I mean, honestly, do you foresee the Red Goblin or Weapon H being in a movie or a TV show ever? In my opinion, no. So I think if you caught it early, you did good. If you bought it near the end, of its, or the peak of its popularity. I mean, obviously, if you bought it because you love it, it doesn't matter. But if you're doing it for collectability and trying to get a profit, if you didn't buy it brand new or within the first week or so and turn around and sold it, you're going to be stuck with books that are going to end up like the Scooby-Doo issue 12. And some of you should know what that one's all about. Comic Lover Omega says, hey guys, what did I miss? Well, when it comes to my videos, not much, but welcome. Let's see. Caleb Leland, hello, Fantastic Horde. Love that name. Says, hey Chris, how's it going? It's going good. I hope things are going well for you. The Comic Otaku, forgive me if I said that wrong, says, what's up? Yeah, Chris went away. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just disconnected me, so hopefully this is all one continued stream. Let's see. Dark Jedi, hello. He says, I wouldn't use two cosmic beings like Thanos and Beyonder as back-to-back villains. I agree. You don't want to do it too big. But like I said, once you get, well, if you get the Fox characters, you have so many more villains now. And also remember, we have so many Spider-Man villains that we could potentially use as well if they continue the agreement with Sony. As much as some people are looking forward to the Venom movie, I think as far as Marvel movies are concerned, it sets a lot of movies back. I mean, to me, it better be a good movie. I mean, Sony hasn't had recently that good of a track record, so it may be more hype than substance, but we'll find out. But like I was saying earlier, that's going to put a movie like Secret Wars on the back burner for a while because, I mean, a major event happens that involves Venom in that comic book series. So they would either have to eliminate it or, you know, do like a soft reboot, but that would mean they'd have to wait a little while. Avid Collector said some are speculating Galactus. I would love to see Galactus. That character is such an epic character. And most people don't even know that when you see Galactus with his purple outfit, that's not how he always looks. If you actually know the history and the origin of Galactus, wherever he appears, he looks like that particular species. So if he goes to Thanos' world, he would look like the species that Thanos comes from. So he doesn't always have a human head. We see him in that way. So if he went to a planet where there was the whole planet was a bunch of flaming skulls, then Galactus, when he appeared, would have the head of a flaming skull. So that's a little bonus information for people who didn't know that about Galactus. So he doesn't always have the face looking as a human. It's just he lets us see what we see, so it makes it easier to adjust to him. So let's see. Caleb says they should go back to smaller movies and standalone movies. I guarantee you that's absolutely what they're going to do. Let's see. The boy who has had 7 talks comic books. He says hello, so hello back. I want to give shout-outs to everybody. Dark Jedi, Big Cloud. Yeah, that was so disappointing in that movie. I mean, you're going to have Galactus in a movie. You can't have him a big puffy cloud. Let's see. Let's go through. Okay. I want to make sure I get everybody. Avid Collector says, I wonder if they would bring Deadpool into the Marvel comic universe. Well, of course, if Marvel ends up, Disney owns the X-Men, that includes Deadpool, so they've already said that they would still keep it. Well, they said it, whether they do it is another thing, but they said if they did it, they would keep his movies rated R, because obviously that works, and, you know, corporations love money, so they're not going to change things that work. They'll just overdo them to death. So I don't think they would axe Deadpool. It's too much of a moneymaker. You know, they don't have to put a lot of money into it and get a lot back. So believe me, think of these businesses not like us as comic collectors. Think of businesses as people that are, you know, basically instructed by shareholders in the stock market. They're the ones that control corporations, the shareholders, and they're all about profits. That is why I always tell people, be careful about brand loyalty, because they use brand loyalty against you to get your money. Because I guarantee you the stockholders don't care about Spider-Man and Superman and Thanos and whoever like we do. They care about the bottom line, which is how much profit can we make from either a book or a toy or a movie. So always remember that. I mean, unfortunately, they use our passions against us in order to make money. So be very careful. Let's see if there's any people. Funk Off. I love that name. That's F-U-N-K. Says The Last Jedi cinematic masterpiece. You're entitled to that opinion. I respectfully disagree, but that's okay. Let's see. Homecoming best movie. Again, you're entitled to that opinion. Too much. I liked Homecoming, but a little too much social justice warrior kind of stuff for my taste. But hey, again, you're allowed to love or not like anything that you like. That's perfectly fine. Let's see. Yeah, Avid Collector says, glad they did not waste time retelling Spider-Man's origin. Yeah, I think that's well overplayed at this point. You can only do that so many times. I mean, yeah, he was bitten by a spider. Same thing with Superman. We don't need to see his origin anymore. Superman's been around since the late 30s. If you don't know how Superman came about, you're probably not watching that movie anyway. So it's kind of that whole preaching to the choir situation. Let's see if there's anybody else I might have missed. I'm not sure if I said Jukebox Comics. Hello, just in case. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it at this point. Let me see. Comic Lover Omega says, "Hey Chris, what's your opinion on the Spider-Verse movie?" To me, again, you would have to introduce a lot of new characters, because us as comic book collectors know about these, and we would love these characters, but the average moviegoer would have no idea who all these Spider-Men are, and would probably confuse people. So, I don't think that would work, at least not for a long time, because you'd have to introduce some of these characters. And if you throw too many unknowns out there, there's not enough comic book lovers out there to make that kind of movie worthwhile. Because, for every one comic book lover that's watching a movie, there's 15 to 20 people who are not comic book lovers who are also watching that movie. So, you have to make sure you please everybody. And if the average viewer does not understand what they're watching, they're not going to recommend it, and it's not going to make money. So we'll see what happens. Like, if they introduce, like Comic Lover just said, if they introduce, like, somebody like Miles Morales, and then maybe Spider-Gwen, and keep it to a minimum, maybe then they can do something like that. But that would be way off in the future, because you just can't rush it. Because we've seen, unfortunately, with the DC movies, what happens when you rush things. Like when they did the whole death of Superman in the first Batman v Superman, that was just such a waste. That could have been built up, because you didn't really care, especially when you knew the next movie Superman was coming back. It just took away from any moment that you could have had as a fan. Now, it was visually stunning, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who love DC that wanted to see that. I want to see it done right, not just done. Remember, quality over quantity. And then with that being said, because my video is about to freeze again, I don't want it to get cut off for a second time. So I'm just going to end this video right now, and thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you appreciated my perspective on what I thought about this. I wanted to give, again, quick shout out to Avid Collector 80 for the inspiration for this video. Thank you for that. And if you guys ever have a video that you want to inspire me to do, leave it in the comments what you think. And if I think it's something that I could give justice to or give a good enough opinion about, I'll be more than happy to give you a shout out as well. Check out my other videos. Hit subscribe. Hit the like button. Just don't hit the person next to you, because we know that's not nice. And remember, everybody, it's not you, it's not I, it's we love not only comics, but comic book movies. Let's hope we have 20 more years of quality movies to come. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.